So what does everybody want? Tell me. They want peace. What do they want? Yes. Balance. Yes. A fulfilling journey. I would say that what most people want, if you listen to people in the 60s, they'd say to change the world. What was it in the 70s? To take care of me, right? This is if you believe the media anyway. The media that said the 70s was the me generation. Everybody was into the narcissistic approach. In the 80s, what was it supposed to be, if you believe the generalization? Money, right? It got to become successful. And in the 90s, the new catchword is quality of life. But no one seems to be able to define it. Quality of life. Well, I have more free time. Well, how many of you in this room, and I'm sure you must know people, if not yourself, have had free time and not been happy? Anybody had that experience? So sometimes what happens is people achieve their goals, as she just got done saying, achieve your goals and you're still not fulfilled, you're still not happy. So if that happens, you don't have a quality of life. You know, everybody has the illusion that someday when I have more money, someday when I have more time, someday when I have a better home, someday when my family is finally grown up, my kids make it out of school, some days when I get my kids into school, someday when this happens, then I'll have a quality life. But quality life only comes from one thing, fulfillment. And those of you watching here a few days ago, if you were on tape 5, you listened to the goal setting workshop. We all did a goal setting workshop yesterday intensely. By the way, was that valuable for you? Did you enjoy it? Yes. Okay. So goals are one thing though, but goals are a vehicle towards getting yourself to meet these 6 human needs that we talked about on tape number 7. This whole idea, the 6 human needs, and how to make sure that whatever you're doing, you don't just do something that makes you feel good for the moment. You do something that makes you feel fulfilled long term. So if you and I are going to really have an extraordinary quality of life, how would we measure that? Would it be by cars, homes, a certain amount of financial success, maybe doing well in your career? I have to tell you, I've had the privilege now of being with people from about 43 nations of the world. And throughout that time, I've worked with the most, quote, successful people in the world and those that are most challenged. And what I find is the common denominator of success or failure ultimately is fulfillment. There are a lot of people out there that have everything on their side and they're frustrated. And there are a lot of people that have every challenge you can imagine. They're excited about the passion of their life, trying to figure out how to make it work. I think ultimately a quality life is a life where you experience the emotions that you want on a regular basis. You know, I had the privilege of meeting Sir John Templeton and talking with him and interviewing him. And this is a gentleman who's made an amazing difference in the world. He's also been very successful in business. He's a billionaire, probably one of the most successful investors for the last 50 years around the world. And when you ask Sir John, what does it take to be, quote, wealthy? John turned to me and said, Tony, it takes one thing, gratitude. I said, that's interesting. He said, yeah, because it doesn't matter how much money you have in your life or anything else. If you're not grateful, you're not rich. I think that's really true way beyond the money, right? It's about all the areas of our life. So ultimately, what I really hope that Personal Power will do for you by your taking advantage of these tools is show you how to live in a place where you feel the joy, the excitement, the passion, the love, the connection, all the emotions that you really want in life, and spend a lot less time in that frustration or that overwhelm or resentment or anger or anything else that used to dominate maybe your life or people that you care about. Because think about it. If we don't manage the ultimate resource of our emotion, where does our life go? We can be brilliant. We can have great ideas, great desires, but we're not going to follow through. We're not going to go start a new business unless we can generate the emotion that gives us drive. We're certainly not going to be in a position where we stay close to the people around us. Have you ever, for example, been in a frustrated state of mind and then snapped at one of your children and had nothing to do with them whatsoever? Felt bad about it maybe afterwards? Or maybe you've been in a place where you misinterpreted someone's intent. You thought they had some secondary approach or gain of doing something with you, and they just really cared. But you're in such an angry state, you kind of filtered it wrong. Well, I don't know if you've ever done that, but I've been guilty of both those things in the past. And I don't want to be guilty of it in the future. And there's a way to create change. Now, I'm assuming, first of all, that you already know 2 of those ways because you've already done those Personal Power tapes, right? You're not supposed to be watching this video unless you first do those tapes. But just in case you didn't, I'll give you a little review. 2 skills that immediately change the quality of our life by changing our emotions. And by the way, out of our emotions come all of our behaviors. If you're on a roll, if you're in a peak state, if you're feeling passionate, you will follow through. On the other hand, if you're feeling passive and quiet and tired, you're not going to follow through. So the ability to change your state in a moment is the secret to not only peak performance, but a quality life. So how do we do that when we're constantly in a world where we're being interrupted? Like, we may hear some airplanes here. You might have to bear in mind with me. We have to both manage our states here. But the way you do it is 2 ways. And by the way, I'll show you these 2 ways real quick, remind you. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to take you to Hawaii, and I'm going to have you sit in on one of my seminars, and I'm going to teach you a skill that'll show you how to immediately increase your drive to do certain things. For example, there's some things you know you need to do, but you have a hard time getting yourself to follow through. Or maybe there's some things that you want to do too much. Like you want to eat that pizza, you want to have that chocolate, you want to do something that's kind of destructive, and you need to lower the amount of drive, lower the urge to follow through. I'm going to teach you a really valuable urge management tool that's so simple you can use it immediately. But first, let's do a quick recap, okay? Number one, whether or not we're happy or not, the way we feel determines the way we behave. So for example, can you remember a time in your life when you're really on a roll, where things were just flowing, where it's like it was effortless, where it's just like you didn't even have to think about it, you just thought afterwards, how the heck did I do that? I'm sure you have. Have you also had times in your life, though, when you couldn't remember your own home telephone number, or how to spell the word the, where it felt like you could do nothing right? And what's the difference in performance? You're the same person, you have the same ability or skill, but in one situation you perform brilliantly, the other one kind of brutally. The difference in people's behavior is not their ability in most cases. It's the state that your mind and body is in at that moment in time. So how do we change our state if we're feeling frustrated or we're feeling depressed? Well, first of all, we have to learn and pay attention to what we naturally do when we're in a peak state versus what we naturally do when we're in an unhappy state. And by the way, you can use this to change performance immediately. I've done it with top athletes. Some of you saw in the infomercial Andre Agassi. And a whole series of athletes I've done this with, where I'll help them discover when they're at their best, they just flow. They don't think about how am I going to hit that ball. I asked Andre when I first met him, I said, listen, have you ever hit a tennis ball perfectly? And he said, well, of course. I said, well, then stop trying to figure out how to change your swing, and let's get you back in that same state of mind where you naturally do this. Let's find out what the triggers were. And the first place we looked is step number one. To change your emotion, you must change the way you use what we call your physiology. That's a big word, but physiology just means the way you move, the way you breathe, the way you use your facial expression. I got some sun here, I'm squinting. It changes my state. But the way you move affects everything. So for example, if a person's feeling depressed, do they take on a certain physiology, a certain posture, a certain breathing pattern? I mean, think about it honestly. What's the posture of somebody who's depressed? Where are their shoulders? Come on, tell me the answer. I want you to think of it yourself before I say it. Good, shoulders are down. Where's their head? Of course, down. What's their breathing like? Full or shallow? Of course, shallow. Facial expression, is it up and tight or slack? We both know it's slack. Now, how come you knew this before I said it? Because you've practiced this stuff before, haven't you? We've all been in that place where we're depressed and we're down. Now, what's interesting is, how do we treat that? What do we do with that? Well, what most people will do is they go take a drug. Or if people are really feeling down in life, they'll go drink some alcohol or maybe smoke a cigarette. Some people do something positive like exercise, which gets you to engage your body in a strong way, which, by the way, immediately changes your state. So what we might do is just try something simple. Might try just breathing differently. Might try standing up differently. For example, try it with something simple. Right now in your chair, one of the challenges I have as you're sitting watching Fiji and some of this material we're sharing is you're not in a seminar. In a seminar, I help you keep yourself in a peak state. Because the state of mind you're in determines how much emotion you're feeling, and the emotion attached to the information is what gets you to follow through. So right now, you're kind of passive. So right now, do me a favor and do you one too. Try this. If you were feeling kind of tired and bored right now, how would you be sitting? Hopefully not how you are right now listening to me. But how would you be sitting if you're bored and tired? Just try it. Come on, it's easy. Bored and tired. What happens to your shoulders? What happens to your body? What happens to your breathing? Bored and tired. A little frustration, that bored, tired, and frustrated. Right? Get that look on your face. Kind of right now, come on, try it. Just see what it's like in your body. See if there's actually a posture that goes with that emotion, a way of breathing, a facial expression. I think you know what it is. And if you went there real quick, that might be a sign you might want to change for the future. Now, in that state of frustration, imagine trying to design your life, trying to change your life. It's not going to happen. So now try this. Sit up in your chair right now. Come on. No one's watching. It's just you in this videotape with me. Come on. Sit up in your chair. Come on, sit up tall. Sit up like you'd be if you were really feeling unstoppable right now. Has there been a time in your life when you felt like you were on a roll? Like, man, nothing you tried would be stopped, that you'd find a way to turn it around? Sit up in your chair that way. Breathe the way you'd be breathing if right now you felt really good. Put the kind of smile on your face like you have, you feel really excited. Now, I know this sounds third grade. Oh, yeah, what a pump up. Sit up, and that's going to really change my life. But the truth is, if you look at your life and you were to write down all the emotions you experienced in the week, both good and bad, each of those emotions has tied to it a certain way of using your body. And if you keep using your body that way over and over again, you'll keep feeling that way. So make yourself breathe and feel good. Sit up like you are ready to make something happen. Right now, if you're in a state of certainty you were going to achieve what you wanted, how would you be sitting up? What would be the look on your face if you were totally determined right now? Make a little gesture. What kind of gesture would you make if you felt determined right now? Come on, just try it. If you make that gesture really strong like you mean it, how does it feel? Just kind of feel what that feels like in your body. In this state of mind, are you likely to do things differently than when you're in that passive state? You and I both know the answer to that question. But the secret is to train yourself to stay in this state so it becomes natural. It's kind of like, how do you build a muscle? I want to build a strong bicep. I may lift weights. And when I lift weights, I don't just exercise. If I want this muscle to grow, I got to condition it by pushing beyond what I'm comfortable with. So if you're just watching me right now and going, who is this idiot telling me to do all this stuff? It's okay, but it won't give you a change. So you got to really exercise it, and you got to do something you're not comfortable with. And if I'm doing 10 curls with a weight, which one of those 10 do you think I want to do the least? Obviously number 10. Which one will give me the most growth? Number 11. Right? When you push beyond your comfort zone, that's when you create a change for yourself. So now, what we're hearing in the background is another airplane. This tends to change our state because it affects state number 2, which I'll wait for it to go by for. The second thing that affects our state is what we focus on. What you and I focus on, moment to moment, radically changes the way we feel. So as that thing goes by, if you focus on the sound of the plane, which would be the natural thing to do, it's going to change your state. But I'll give you a better example. If you're in a position where you want to condition yourself to feel good, you got to control what you consistently focus on and how you consistently use your body. So for example, if you wanted to feel bad right now, I bet you could pull it off. Do you have any memories from your past, some horrible memory that if you thought about it in detail and really focused on it, you'd feel really lousy all over again? You got an experience like that? Some people say, heck, I got zillions of them. I got a menu of experiences. Other people tell me, why go back to my past? My present is crappy enough. Some people are not satisfied with that. They think of things that haven't even happened yet, and they focus on them. Horrible things that haven't even occurred and feel bad about them in advance. You don't want to fall into that trap. So both of these become habits, by the way. People come to me all the time and they say, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, Mr. Robbins. I just feel down all the time. Why do you think I feel so down? Well, part of it is, look at their body. Part of it is what do they constantly focus on, how things haven't worked out, how they can't turn it around, and their body's in a lousy place. Pretty obvious. Other people say, I don't know what it is. I feel so up all the time. Why do you think it is I feel so up all the time? I mean, it's pretty obvious. But we forget the fundamentals, don't we? We turn, most of us, we don't like the way we feel, to alcohol again, or cigarettes, or smoking, or sleeping, or we go watch TV to change our focus, to take us off what we're focusing on that makes us feel bad and make us focus on something else that maybe feels okay for the moment. Or you go shopping, or you change the way you're moving, you feel pretty good, and you focus on something else. But none of those give you a long-term benefit. In fact, some of them have some negative side effects. So wouldn't it be nice to be able to change your state that fast, just by a radical change in the way you use your body, or by a quick change in focus? And by the way, people come to me all the time and say, I don't know what it is, Mr. Robbins, but I'm really angry all the time. They make these horrible looks on their faces. I say, well, maybe we should start with your face. Because we get in a habit of using our body in a certain way, and that's it. It takes off and starts to control us. And you want to break out of that. In fact, there's research that's done now with monkeys that I personally don't support, but you should be aware of it. They'll take a monkey, tape down 4 of his fingers. They'll take one finger and they'll manually bend it back and forth, over and over again, manually. After doing this for thousands and thousands of times, an interesting thing occurs. Each time you bend this finger of the monkey, metaphorically, imagine that to do this, the monkey has to make a connection in the brain between one nerve cell, a neuron, and another, just as a metaphor. Imagine for this to happen, you have to draw a string of connection between those 2 neurons, those 2 nerve cells in the brain. Well, once you got 1 string, 2 you got 2. Thousands of times, the monkey is now wired to do this. So much so that now you can open the monkey's fingers, and guess what the monkey does for no good reason? Over and over again. You go, so what? I'm not a monkey. What's the point? Well, the point is this. Do you ever go to work the same way each day? Maybe get on the same on-ramp each day? Do you have a kind of a ritual like that? Have you ever had a day where you're actually supposed to go in a different direction, but you're not thinking or on your cellular phone, and what do? You get right on that on-ramp the same way? You're a monkey. What you're doing is you've conditioned yourself so much that's like hypnosis. You just automatically go into it. Well, can we condition ourselves to feel frustrated over and over again by going into that same physiology, that same set of movements? You bet. Can you condition yourself to feel depressed? You bet. Can you also condition yourself to feel absolutely euphoric, where that is your natural emotional pump? And I'm not talking about just being motivated. I'm talking about really, truly feeling that way day to day, where the natural feeling for you is to be strong and to be focused and to be determined and to be happy. The answer is absolutely. Now, that's one aspect, is physiology. Let's look at focus a little bit. You might say, okay, Tony, I know I've got to focus on what works. Are you saying just be a positive thinker? I don't believe in positive thinking. I don't believe in going to your garden and saying, there's no weeds, there's no weeds, there's no weeds. That's not going to, they'll take your garden. That's not going to help you. You got to be able to focus on how it really is, but not make it worse than it is. You then got to see it how you want it. And then you got to focus on how am I going to make it the way I want it. And I'll tell you how you control your focus. It's not through affirmations, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy. I'm really happy, I really am. With that physiology, no matter what you say, you're not going to feel happy. But what it really is coming down to asking yourself better questions. You see, every moment while you're listening to me right now, every moment in your life, you're, quote, thinking. Thinking is nothing but the process of asking and answering questions. Here's the problem. Most of us ask questions unconsciously. And ask and you shall what? Receive. So if you ask lousy questions like, why does this always happen to me? Well, it may not always happen to you, but your brain is like the ultimate computer. If you ask it a question, it's got to come up with an answer. It's got to make one up. So if you say, why does this always happen to me? Your brain goes to, you're a schmuck. Or some people say things like, how come I can never lose weight? And your brain goes, because you're a pig. You ask a lousy question, what are you going to get? A lousy answer. A better question might be, how could I lose weight now and enjoy the process? Because if you say, how can I lose weight now? Your brain will just go on a diet. And you go, oh, I don't want to go through that again. But if you say, how can I lose weight now and enjoy the process? Your focus goes to not only achieving, but enjoying the process. You might say, you know, I've always wanted to ride horses. Maybe I'll take horseback riding lessons. I won't even be thinking about it and also lose weight. You get the idea of what I'm talking about? I'm doing it quickly because in Personal Power we've talked about these, but I want to remind you of them because the questions you ask yourself and the way you move radically changes the way you feel. The way you feel determines what you're going to do. In a frustrated state, you're not going to go out and be totally loving. In a frustrated state, you're not going to go start a business. Remember, it's not our intellect that makes us do these things. We don't marry someone because we made an intellectual list. You marry them because they ran off with your heart and you're passionate to be with this person. You love them. You start a business because you found some drive inside of you. Because it's hard to do those things. But the rewards are in who we become as a person as we live in these states, and they are habits. So you might want to take my little test. You might want to take a few minutes, stop this videotape, and actually write down a list of all the emotions you experience in a week. I mean, both the good and the bad, honestly. Right? What are the terrible feelings? What are the not-so-good feelings that you not feel once in a while, but consistently feel? What are the great ones? And again, test this. And I think what you're going to find is you got probably less than a dozen emotions you experience consistently. And as a result of that, what's happening is at least half of them make you feel like heck. And as a result of that, what's happening? You should feel a smidge cranky when you see this because you're ripping yourself off. There are 3,800 emotions you could feel. So quality life is a life of powerful, positive emotion that you're able to share with the people around you, whether it be your kids or anybody else, because you're feeling it, not because you're pumped up, not because you're trying to be positive or give something to someone.